And what today I'd like to make the case for is that actually as Muslims, the more we practice Islam and the elements which are there within Islam is undermine or maybe devalue the actual role that religion plays in the life of the Muslims, and indeed how it impacts on society. And what today I'd like to make the case for is that actually as Muslims, the more we practice Islam and the elements which are there within Islam is not only beneficial for the individual and the community, but it's beneficial for the whole society. And even at a level of governance, that it will also benefit the government. Because no doubt we hear a lot about how religion maybe divides people. Some people try to say that religion is a reason for wars and conflict throughout the world. But we don't hear much about the positive side that religion actually plays in the individual, how it constructs the individual mentality and mindset in a positive way, which can indeed impact on society. So inshallah, I'll be looking at a few elements within the practice of Islam and the religion of Islam, and to see how that really is something that is needed in society today. If you look first of all at the core of Islam, which is the practice, the belief system, the aqeedah, the Iman, the Iman that is obviously the core. We know that as Muslims, what makes a Muslim is his Iman, to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the one God and Muhammad as the messenger of Allah. And it is that Iman, or that faith, or that belief, which if it propagates, if it increases, actually gives a great power to the individual, and something which again society needs. Because if you look at the Iman, this link to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what Islam teaches and some of the other religions teach, is that there is a God, there is life after death, there is a day of reward for those who have done good, those who have been practicing good deeds. That actually gives that positive inspiration for an individual in society, especially when we see today in society there's a lot of depression, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of Prozac being prescribed. Is how religion actually gives an individual more that hope that he needs or she needs in life, the hope that there is something good, and that can only be good for society. that when every individual actually, instead of looking on the negative side and feeling depressed, that individual actually has positive aspiration. And for those of you who are medically based or either studying or practicing, we all know that half of the treatment or half of medication is mental, is actually psychological, how you feel about your medication. And that's why, even though we're in a secular society, but the secular society is willing to spend money on chaplaincies. You have chaplaincies based in hospitals, and the NHS pays people to actually provide. Why? Not because they love religion, not because there is a connection to religion, but because they know that religion actually promotes healing. That the patient living in the hospital, feeling that they can actually they are healing, or they can heal, or they are having that hope, gives them that kind of healing. So Iman is very much similar in that sense, and that is very important in society today, to have that feeling of hope, of positivity. But not only that, Iman also gives the individual the fear of Allah, God, and that God is aware. This is what we call muraqabah, that He is aware of what you do. So the individual who has, the more Iman that he has, the more conscious he is that there is someone watching him, someone who is accounting him, someone who will know and will actually judge him for his actions and her actions, no matter what he how he tries to hide things. There is accountability, and that's again something positive. We all know this is reinforced in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the story. Look at the story of Omar radiallahu anhu with that woman, or with those two women that he overheard. As you know, Omar radiallahu anhu, the Khalifa, used to walk through the streets of Medina at night, listening to what's happening, so he's aware more of what's happening in society. And when he overheard two women, a mother and a daughter, talking to each other, and the mother was saying, let's add water to the milk so that we can increase the milk, increase the volume, sell more profit. It's a good way to increase your output, your product. But the girl, what did she say? The daughter, she said, but the head of the state, Amir al-Mu'mineen, has prohibited us from doing this. It's not acceptable. It's a form of deception, and Islam clearly prohibits deception. Naha Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam an bay' al-gharar. Bay' al-gharar, any type of contract which has deception in it, is haram. It has to be clear. Everything needs to be clear. You need to know what you're buying. You need to know what you're selling. So this is a form of deception. She said, no, but Amir al-Mu'mineen, Umar al-Khattab, can't see us. How's he going to know? So here comes the important answer, which is again based on the increase in Iman. If Umar al-Khattab can't see us, then surely the Lord of Umar can see us. You see how that feeling of Iman, that belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, makes a person more conscious even in his dealings, so that his dealings, when he's dealing with other people, buying and selling, he's aware of Allah, and he's conscious of that if he tries to cheat, that he cannot cheat Allah, and he cannot get away with Allah. Now that's a positive kind of feeling to have in society. Any society, whether it's secular or not secular. This kind of feeling that, I have to be fair and I have to be just. And many other stories in that regards, where the society was brought up on that kind of aspiration, that kind of belief that we should not cheat. We should be aware of our practices, and we should do things which are acceptable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have also I'll just give you another story, although the stories are so many in this regard, but the story of the father of Abdullah ibn Mubarak, who was once, he was given a job of being a security guard over a garden which had pomegranates, rumman. And so once the owner of that garden came to the guard, he had some guests. So he said to the guard, get us some fruit. So the guard went, he picked some of the fruits and he brought them. They cut open the fruits and they tasted the pomegranate. They found it was very sour. They said, what is this? Go and get us some more fruit. So they goes, get some more fruit from a different tree. Again, sour. So when the owner of the garden says, you've been working here such a long time, don't you know which are the trees that produce the sweet fruit from the sour fruit? So the guard says, all this time that I've been working here, I've not tasted any of the fruits, because you employed me to guard the fruits, not to eat the fruits. See, even the owner of the fruit was expecting that maybe the guard might, sneak in a fruit here or there and eat. But no, this kind of Iman prevented that person from even taking a fruit from the many trees that he is guarding. So this kind of feeling, this kind of consciousness, if we had it more in society here, amongst Muslims who practice Islam and have their Iman and are conscious of Allah, would that be better for society, or would that be worse? What do you say? Of course it's better, no doubt. So the more that the Muslims have Iman, are more conscious of Allah, it's positive society, because society benefits in the end of the day. People who are aware, people are not ready to cheat one another. Also what comes with Iman, which is again an important part of Iman, is that believe in Allah is the one who provides. Allah is the one who gives. And that in itself is also an important belief that a person has, because when he has that kind of belief, he isn't going to be someone who is, he's discontent with how society is treating him, or what kind of share he might have in life. If maybe he's out of work, or she can't get a job, or that circumstances have failed, or becomes ill. Whatever comes his or her way, his Iman, her Iman, will actually guide him through this difficult time. So he doesn't become a burden on society. Rather, he knows that ما أصابك لم يكن ليخطئك. Whatever has come and whatever comes to you would never have missed you. وما أخطأك ما كان ليصيبك. Whatever has missed you will never have come to you. Meaning that whatever is coming to you is coming to you. That feeling of Iman lets a person also be content with what he has and happy with what he has, and not somebody who holds a grudge against society because society has treated me badly, or I'm in this situation or whatever, because he links it to a bigger picture, which is his religion is very much important in that. Now, Islam, as you may or may not know, deals with every aspect of life. There is something in Islam to talk about everything in life. And if we just look at some of the basic qualities or some basic guidance in Islam, we can see how that is beneficial for society again. And look at the financial aspect. Financial aspect of how a person lives in society today. One of the most important ethos in Islam, and something that the Prophet ﷺ was very much encouraging the society to understand, was the work ethos. The work ethos, that you should go and work. You should not expect just handouts from society. And you can find that many times in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. الْيَدُ الْعُلْيَا خَيْرٌ مِنَ الْيَدُ السُّفْلَى. The upper hand, meaning the hand that gives charity, is better than the hand that takes. And also the Prophet ﷺ said to Sa'ad that you leave your daughter wealthy, being able to have her own means of livelihood, better than she goes around begging from people, then you leave her poor. And when two people came to the Prophet ﷺ, two young men came to the Prophet ﷺ and they were asking for zakah, the Prophet ﷺ looked at them and he found that they looked healthy, there's nothing wrong with them. He said, if you want, I can give you zakah, but there is no share. There is no share of zakah for someone who can earn their living. It's encouraging to go and work. And not only that, there's another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, على كل مسلم صدقة. Every Muslim should give charity. So a man said, أرأيت إن لم أجد? What if I don't have anything to give? So the Prophet ﷺ said, تعمل بيدك فتنفع نفسك وتتصدق. Go and work with your own hands. You'll benefit yourself, and then you can give charity. Now, I was mentioning this hadith in a circle that I had, and I said, today in this society today, this hadith should be written on top of all the job centres. All the job centres in the UK, they should have this hadith. You know, work, go and work, benefit yourself and give charity. See that ethos in Islam which encourages you to go out and work. You shouldn't be someone who is relying on social security. You shouldn't be relying on others to earn your life. And we all know when Omar radiallahu anh, he entered the masjid and he found people in the masjid and worshipping Allah. Again, a virtuous act, worshipping Allah, staying in the masjid. He said, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Go out and work, because the sky doesn't rain gold or silver. You know, you have to go and seek your rizq, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. فَامْشُوا فِي مَنَاكِبِهَا وَكُلُوا مِنْ رِزْقِهِ. Go and walk in the paths of the earth and eat from the consume from the provisions of His provisions. Not only that, but you see, even to emphasize this point, you see that the Prophet ﷺ not only just made these statements, Islam also was keen to teach people, because some people maybe don't know how to, deal life. They don't know how to earn a living or whatever. So the Prophet ﷺ, even on one occasion when somebody came and he was, complaining that he didn't know how to earn his livelihood or how to work or whatever. So the Prophet ﷺ said, do you have an axe? He said, yes. He said, go and bring your axe. Goes and brings his axe. The Prophet ﷺ takes him physically and takes him and says, look, this is a tree. Chop it down. Make the firewood. Chops it down, makes the fire, bring it, take it to the market. Now sell it. Sells it. He's made some money. And the Prophet ﷺ, go and do this every day. And it's simple. Simple. I mean, sometimes simple things need somebody to sort of maybe encourage and to direct people. But you see how Islam encourages this work ethics. Now again, I ask you, is that good for society or is that bad for society? If a Muslim practices Islam and understands this concept and knows that I should not be a burden on society financially, I should be the one who's going out there and working and earning my livelihood, paying my taxes and benefiting myself and giving charity, this can only be good for society. But not only that, not only financially does this work ethos, but also Islam with this whole concept. And again, you read the Quran and you find so many verses in the Quran which encourage you to spend and to give charity. The infaq, to give. The example of those who spend in the path of Allah is like that ear of grain, which as a result it gives rise to seven ears, and in each ear there is 100 grains, and Allah magnifies and multiplies to whom He wills. And many other verses and many ahadith where the Prophet is encouraging people to give charity. And indeed here in Britain, statistics from last year showed that in fact the highest sector of society which gives charity are the Muslims. Muslims are the ones who are at the top. They've excelled in giving charity here in Britain. Again, it shows that kind of ethos that religion plays. The more a Muslim is practicing, the more he is and she is selfless and is ready to give charity and spend and help others. And that again is positive. That is good for society, because society, that's what society needs. Society needs charitable acts. It needs charitable acts in the form of financial and obviously the other type of charitable acts, which again Islam encourages in the same context of this whole teaching, which is that charity is not just about giving money, but charity is also about how you help society. So that's why even when the Prophet ﷺ made that statement, that every Muslim should give a sadaqah, should give a charity, and then a person said, what if I don't have? And he said, you can go and work. And then he said, what if I can't work? Or if I don't work? Then he said, you could help somebody with their luggage, to carry their luggage, or to help them mount their vehicle. That's a form of charity. Or if you reconcile between two, that's a form of charity. Or even removing harm from the path, again, that's a form of charity. So these are charitable acts, which is really, again, what we know today in society, something called volunteering, encouraging volunteering. And that comes with practicing religion as well. Because today in the material society that we live in, everybody is looking out for some sort of material gain. I do work, I should really be paid for my efforts, I should be reimbursed in some way. Because if there's no concept of that there is someone else who will reward me, there's no concept of fi sabilillah, there's no concept that there's hasanat, then I need some sort of either a recognition, either financial reimbursement or some sort of recognition. Give me a certificate I can put on the wall, or maybe a badge that I could wear, or something, a medal, something to show that I've done something. Whereas if a person practices Islam and he understands the concept of hasanat and sayyi'at, and the further concept of ikhlas and sincerity, and that you should do things for Allah, and you have your motto, as Allah mentions in the Quran, of those who do righteous deeds, and they say, إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا. We feed you, which is our charitable work, for the sake of Allah. We don't want from you any reward, nor do we want even any shukura. We don't even want you to say thank you. We're not looking, because that's not why we're doing the act. And again, this is a concept which is is further ingrained and concentrated and hammered in with the practices of Islam, that you do things for Allah. And if you do things for Allah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether people say thank you or not, because you're not doing it for the people. You're not, obviously, if somebody says thank you, that's great. لا يشكر الله من لا يشكر الناس. He's not grateful to Allah, the one who's ungrateful to people. Being grateful to people, that's good, that's fine. But when you have that ingrained practice of Islam in you, you do things for Allah. You're ready to volunteer your time, your effort for Allah. And again, something that will benefit society, not harm society. We need more Islam. We need more people who are ready to volunteer their times, who have that link to religion, which they know that the more that they practice their religion, the more that they are ready to give charity, and the more that they're ready to volunteer their time. So what are the other things that Islam teaches, and part of the practicing of Islam which is beneficial for building the UK today, Britain? Well, okay, let's look at, what about looking at the aspects of the societal ills that we have today? The ills of society, some of the diseases in society. Well, there's so many, but let's look at one of the very important ones in society, something which costs the UK lots of money. Okay, in fact, recent statistics were showing that this specific illness, call it an illness or a kind of social disease, actually costs the UK £21 billion every year. And that is alcohol. Alcohol costs the UK £21 billion every year. Whether it's in lost time in work, whether it's how many people visit A&E.
A lot more in Scotland.
Okay, well, alhamdulillah. No comment. The thing is, this kind of practice is not something that, is not something that is not clear. It's evident. All you have to do is just go out in the streets and see that, in the weekends, or sometimes not even in the weekends. And see, and if you work in hospital, you'll see this as well. See how people come in either through accidents, drink driving, people who are affected through family domestic abuse that happens because so many things. 21 billion pounds and more in Scotland, according to the gentleman there. So I think, end of the day, Islam, as you all know, prohibits alcohol. And so the Muslim automatically, by default, by practicing his Islam and her Islam, keeps away from this drug of alcohol, which is acceptable. It's allowed, so it's not illegal. But sociologists know that it's a problem, and it is causing harm. But nothing is done about it. There's a lot of money also to be made by the big companies who have an interest in keeping it going and promoting it. And some people might even obviously use it for other reasons, to drowning their sorrows or whatever. But Muslims partake in reducing this cost on society, this burden on society which comes with this disease. Not only that, if the Muslims practice their Islam more as well, they will keep away from the other diseases as well, the other elements of bad societal ills, like drugs, for example. Again, something which costs, not only costs the economy, but also costs people's lives and costs people's lives, whether it's in real loss of life or whether it's in loss of life due to changes in practice, whether it's imprisonment or whether it's making households miserable because of these effects of drugs. So again, practicing Islam, becoming more religious, makes a person go down the route of that I keep away from alcohol, I keep away from drugs, not because in the case of drugs that I'm afraid of the police will catch me or whether I'll be caught. No, because this is not acceptable in my religion. Allah is not happy for me to do this, not pleased for me to do this. So I keep away from this. So more practicing of Islam will actually save people from this practice of this bad practice. And in fact, that's the way that it's through Islam that alcohol as a problem in society was overcome. You all know in the practice of Islam, when the Prophet ﷺ was sent, alcohol wasn't just abolished in one go. It was done over graduation, because alcohol indeed is one of those drugs which is difficult just to leave. So Islam came with that introduction of how to go over the gradual way to get rid of this practice. Moving on to other, there are obviously other ills as well, whether it's related to issues related to if we wanted to talk about pornography and how that is a problem within society today. It's such a problem that even today society is talking about how the problem is it's extended to children. I'm not talking about adults watching children pornography, but we're talking about children going on and watching pornography. Okay, again, something that is also a societal ill that is present today. Whereas you can see how the practice of Islam in prohibiting this kind of act is important for protecting society, because we know how pornography damages individuals and damages people, and there's lots of reported cases. I don't want to dwell too much on this topic, which is not really one to talk about. And let's move on to a different topic. What does also Islam teach us about social behavior and social relationships? Today we see that there is in Britain, again, one of the biggest problems in society, one of the biggest social problems in society that is faced by many people, and indeed it's on the rise, is the social problem of loneliness. There are people who are suffering because of loneliness. High percentage, especially amongst the elderly, who are suffering from loneliness. And what does Islam teach? Islam teaches you the concept of asking about your neighbor, knowing what your neighbor is doing, how your neighbor is, you know, and making sure that your neighbor has all their needs, whether it is material needs. لا يؤمن والله لا يؤمن من بات شبعان وجاره جائع. How can he have Iman, the one who goes to sleep having eaten his full while his neighbor is hungry? How can he have Iman, the one who his neighbor is not protected from his own harm, doesn't hurt his, you know, his neighbor isn't protected, isn't safe from that harm. The whole concept of neighbors is something, again, I'm sure you know, you studied Islam, but there's an emphasis, you know, the emphasis of Islam on looking after a neighbor. Again, something that society needs today. Society needs, and this is, no matter how many laws you do about this, you can never introduce laws where, you know, you have to, by law, ask about your neighbor. How is your neighbor doing? And go on. It cannot happen. It cannot happen. The only way that this can be addressed is through religious practice, or at least moral practice. Some people may do it for the moral concept, but religion plays a bigger role, because a person is doing it knowing that this is his responsibility in society, to ask about his neighbors, and to ask to make sure that they are looked after, that they are not, you know, how many of us have elderly neighbors which we might see now and again, but we don't really know what they are suffering. We don't know whether they are lonely, whether they have anybody asking about them, whether they need about them. And recently we had, in MAB, we had an event, we were talking about organizing social campaigns within society, and we had a guest come from Germany and was telling us about how they organized certain events, and one of the things that they did as part of their religious practice was that they went on Eid Day, they went and visited the old people's homes and took with them a small present or a flower and gave it to the old people. And when one of the women said, you know, why are you doing this? And this is in Germany, they found such a positive response. One of the elderly women said, why are you doing this? Why are you coming to visit us? They said, because this is our day of Eid, this is our day of happiness, and wanted to share with you our happiness. And he said, one of the women that they visited, she said, she started to cry, and she said, you know, for 8 years I've been here, nobody has visited me. You are the first person to visit me in 8 years. And he said, my colleague or my friend, she died, and nobody came. Her son didn't even come even to take her. You know, so you see how that is there, and that is a problem in this society. And I say that if Muslims practice their Islam more, and they understand their role in society, they'll actually be a powerful asset in society, who look after those who are weak and vulnerable within society, because they do it for Allah. They do it for the reasons that Allah has ordered this, and they are seeking for the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and because Islam invites this caring attitude within society. But why are we going as far as neighbors? Why don't even when you go back even closer, closer back home? Look how Islam emphasizes through the teachings the importance of obedience to parents and looking after parents, and the right, and caring for the parents, and caring for them at their times of need, like they looked after you look after them when they're elderly and so on. And even today, when there's so much hype in the news today about all these young Muslims being radicalized and going off to join the jihad in Syria or Iraq or whatever. And what I say is that if those people, those jihadi brides or the jihadi grooms or whatever, those people, if they understood Islam and they knew Islam, and they understood and practiced Islam more, they would actually know that the Prophet ﷺ, when a man came to him and he said, I want to come with you into war, he said, do you have any parents alive? He said, yes. So the Prophet ﷺ said, go back and فَفِيهِمَا فَجَاهِدْ, go and do your jihad, is to look after them. And when and the other one, when he said to them, how did you leave your mother? He said, I left my mother crying, because he wanted to go and fight, and he left his mother. So the Prophet said, go back and make her smile like you made her cry. Now, if the youth in Britain today understood Islam and practiced Islam, we wouldn't have this problem of them just, disappearing without even telling their parents and not joining, going off to Syria or whatever, and leaving their parents. One day their parents, their children are there next to them. Secondly, they hear about it in the news, and their pictures are on every news station that this woman is missing and this person is gone and this gone. So what I'm saying is that practicing Islam is actually even the answer to this whole monster of extremism which is thrown at us time and time again, and we're saying, and actually Muslims are being told that this is your problem and you're not dealing with it, and so on and so forth. And that's why more and more we've seen that how the conservatives now that they're into power, they've already started putting in the bills in motion to try and make it even more harder, tackling extremism again under the premise of we want to combat terrorism, and terrorism starts by those who are have some sort of extreme, even though it might be non-violent extremism, but they are the ones who are going to become. And rather, the argument is the other way around. The argument is that a person who understands Islam more and practices Islam more will actually understand his role in society more, and wouldn't be someone who's going to go to extremism, which again something that the Prophet ﷺ warned of. إِيَّاكُمْ وَالْغُلُوُّ فِي الدِّينِ. So Islam teaches also about family life, and not just for the parents but also for the children as well. Understanding the rights of children, again something that is unfortunate part in society today, with so much child neglect, and we hear about that in the news so much often. And in fact, the whole face of society has changed. I mean, a lot of you here are young and probably can't maybe remember the times where it's okay to go and play outside by yourself and so on. Whereas now now you can't, everybody's afraid for their child to step out of the door. There's a danger waiting. There's someone waiting out there who's ready to snatch them and so on. So things have changed. The whole practice have changed because, unfortunately, due to child abuse and child neglect and so on. Whereas Islam was teaching, caring for children, nurturing society, building that society based on love and mercy. The Prophet ﷺ, how he dealt with the babies and with the children, and he would show them the compassion and mercy. And when he took his grandson Al-Hasan and he kissed him, and one of the Bedouins there, he said, "Oh, do you kiss your children?" He said, "Yes, yes we do." And that Bedouin said, "I have 10 children, and never have I kissed any one of them." So the Prophet ﷺ said, what can I do for you if you have no mercy in your heart? There's almost like no solution for you. You're a lost cause. But the reality here is that kind of mercy within society, which Islam teaches, again, a practicing Muslim should have that mercy for his children and family, is what society needs today. And if there's anybody here who is studying psychology, or indeed graduates, will tell us that a secure family home is the best thing for society. Most of the problems which arise from gangs and crime are usually, not all of the times, but usually related to that individual looking for a belonging. And if he does not find his home, his family unit belonging, he looks for other means of belonging. If he can't turn back to the family, doesn't have a caring father, a caring mother, he looks for somewhere else, and that usually ends up as a gang. And then you all know when somebody enters a gang, it's almost like a spiral out of control. Also, within society today, I mentioned to you about visiting the elderly and so on, but also looking after the sick as well, and visiting the sick. And if you pick up the book of Al-Adab al-Mufrad for Imam al-Bukhari, you'll find that the whole chapter is the chapter of visiting the idolater. Bab ziyaratul mushrik. So not just visiting. It's not about Muslims visiting Muslims. It's even visiting the idolater. So the person who worships idols, to go and visit him when they are sick. You see how Islam even encouraged that kind of merciful practice, caring, because that guy is ill. And when a person is ill, he needs that comfort. He needs that support. He needs that feeling of somebody is actually looking after them, and that can actually be part of the healing process more than the actual medicine or the surgery. Another part of Islam, which is also important, I think, for society today, which again, something that I think we have probably ignored in society, but yes, this is an important pillar in society. And again, I say by practicing Islam more, understanding Islam more, it will benefit society. Now we know the verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. We made you into tribes and nations. For what? So to know one another? Yeah? And that's how most people understand the interpretation of that. But there's another meaning for ta'arafu, which is to practice al-ma'ruf with one another. Lita'arafu means to look after each other, to practice good practice with each other, because al-ma'ruf is a word which means goodness, but it actually comes from the word of custom, al-urf. This is al-ma'ruf. This is something which is customly, and something which is, as a part of a custom, it is something good. And that's why even in the Quran, Allah talks a lot of the time about things which are set by custom. Even in terms of what kind of money, what kind of maternal allowance, what kind of allowance for the child. It talks about ma'ruf, bil-ma'ruf, mata'an bil-ma'ruf, وعلى المولود له رزقهن وكسوتهن بالمعروف. It's all about this ma'ruf, which is the custom. Okay, and the custom is an important part of a concept in Islam where it's about good practice. Because within society today, there are good practices, people learning from each other. And when we have good practice, when somebody has a good formula for any good practice, whether it's social, whether it's financial, whether it's political, anything, then rather than keep it to yourself, you have an obligation of al-amru bil-ma'ruf, to enjoin this good practice. So that good practice is not something which is just hoarded by an individual. Rather, you spread it and you tell people about it. And so good practice actually becomes something which is spread in society. And on the other hand, al-munkar, which is something that is rejected, something which is unacceptable, something which is despicable, something which, I know there are things, obviously, there are certain aspects which people differ on, but there are things which are common, which everybody will accept. Nobody accepts, for example, injustice. Injustice is not acceptable. Indecency, abuse, things which are there, which are unacceptable in society. The role of society is to forbid those bad practices in society. And here, this is the whole concept of al-amru bil-ma'ruf wa nahy al-munkar. And it's actually when we, as a society, British society, practice that, the society can rise. And that's what made the Muslim society rise. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس. You are the best nation to rise up for mankind. When تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. When you enjoined good and you forbid evil, or you enjoined the good practice and you forbid the bad practice, and you believe in Allah, you rise up as a nation. But when each person wants to hold on to the old thing, doesn't want to share good practice, doesn't want to tell people about how to practice good things, doesn't have that element inside it where to prohibit bad, you will actually not prosper. And I think this is something, again, practicing Islam here in the UK is important for us to revive that kind of practice within society. Society needs us as individuals within society to share our good practices. You know, today there are problems in parenting. You know, people, as you know, somebody can become a parent and nobody has ever told them what it means to be a parent, or how to deal with parenthood. There's no courses that are mandatory courses which you have to attend, and how to be a parent, how to look after your child. And so therefore, by default, there's going to happen. There's going to be neglect. There's going to be lack of knowledge of how to care, how to be a good parent. Things relating to even financial. You know, some people are today are struggling to learn how to rise financially. It's about sharing. You know, sharing good information, good practice, and together again society can prosper. And I think if we brought that back as a Muslim community within society today, that how do we share good practice, and that part of our religion is to enjoin this ma'ruf, which is the customary good practice, and to forbid the munkar, which is what is rejected by the individual soul, then that can also be beneficial for society. And I mean, these are just sort of indications that I wanted to share with you. But if we wanted to go into every aspect of the Islamic practices, which as a Muslim, the more that he or she practices, will actually draw them, will have an impact on society. Even a salah, salah, which is your personal ibadah, what does Allah say? It says, "Inna salata tanha anil fahsha wal munkar." So the nature of salah is that it forbids evil and it forbids bad practice. So even that personal prayer that you are doing should have an impact on society. Your fasting, again, it's a personal ibadah which you are just not eating, but that personal act of restraining from eating and drinking has a positive effect on society because it teaches you so many things. It teaches you self-control, it teaches you restraint, it teaches you to think about others, it teaches you to become more aware of the sufferings of people, what it feels to be hungry, and it also teaches you to control yourself, regulate yourself. Allahumma inni sa'im. And when somebody fights you or wants to argue with you, you say, I'm fasting. I'm fasting. You control the... Omar was telling me you're telling me about that incident that you had. And so on. It's, we have these... There are incidences out there. So even fasting, which is a personal thing, has an impact on society. And the same with Hajj, the same with the Zakah, every pillar of Islam, and you can extend it to all aspects of Islam. If we really looked at the roots of Islam and what the reasons are, because we know that Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Islam not just for no reason, but actually it's for a bigger purpose, which is لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ, so that people will rise up in fairness and in balance. And I think that is a message that inshallah if we had, and if we had that and we understood that, we can see that our Islam and our practice, and the more that we practice Islam, will actually be positive for society. It will impact our society more, and it will be better for Britain because it will help Britain prosper in all aspects. And because we are here, and this is our country, and this is our home, we understand that through practicing our Islam, we're actually doing the best we can for our home that we are living here. So inshallah, I hope through these small points, well, like I said, this is just the key. I hope you can maybe use this opportunity to go and look into more about the practice of Islam and how it impacts positively on society. Is that I hope that through this introduction you would have understood that really the answer is not to, as some may now propagate, it's not to reduce the practice of Islam. There is no problem by practicing Islam. There's no link between more practicing of Islam and radicalization, or more practicing Islam and extremism. It's either the opposite. The more the Muslims practice Islam, the better it will be for society. Jazakumullah khair. Wa alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.